Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Thank you for being here. My name is Oceana. I'm going to be sharing my favorite books of 2021. I had an amazing reading year. It was so hard to pick my favorite books because I read amazing books this year, discovered so many good authors. I'm going to link some videos down below where I talk about some of these books more in length, and I also did a mid-year video of my favorites of the year so far, so I'll link that down below. I'm still going to talk about those books because they are on this list. I read a lot more favorite books at the beginning of the year than at the end, so I'm just gonna, compile them all together and pick my favorites. In my bullet journal, I wrote down 19 books, but I'm not actually gonna share all of them. If a book really resonates with me, I'll write it down, but it doesn't necessarily make the favorites list. So a few of these I would probably knock off after I think about it. So I'm just going to talk about my ultimate favorite books. I don't have a certain number. I'm just going to go and we shall see. I do own some of them are physical, and then a bunch are ebooks as well that I read. So I can't wait to share all of these books with you. I would highly recommend all of them. I'm going to share if they're Christian, if they were clean, and that's about it. I'm just going to share why I love them. So my first favorite book of the year is Happiness for Beginners by Katherine. And I think I'll lump in What You Wish For as well by Katherine because they kind of go together. They're a little bit like companions because What You Wish For follows the brother of the main character in Happiness for Beginners. So I don't know how to edit two covers at the same time into the video. I've tried to do it and it doesn't work. So once again, a little bit slow with the editing style, so I need to learn still. I did Google it though, and they said that you can't, so whatever. So you're gonna look at Happiness for Beginners this whole time, and I'll mention What You Wish For briefly as well after. But Happiness for Beginners, I read it in January, and it still stands out because I was so pleasantly surprised by the depth of character growth development analysis that this author did in this book. And it was very relatable in such a messy, imperfect way that it just worked. I don't know if that makes sense, but I loved this book and I loved the ending. I loved how it all kind of came together and her growth as a person in the end. It was just so great. And then What You Wish For is similarly just as good. I would say it's weird. I connected to What You Wish For more because I related to it more because it's about a teacher. There's a pretty big trigger warning for this book. I don't think I'll say anything about what it is, but maybe just look it up, because if you have had any kind of experience to do with it, it would probably be very traumatizing, I would say. Because also there's kind of a big blow up to do with it between the two characters that was really intense to read about. And they did swear a little bit in that time, so just so you know that the F word was dropped. But it, in a way, all of that kind of messy emotional stuff made the story so real, and it was so well written, and I loved these characters. It was definitely a little bit uncomfortable because it was about a school and about teachers, and I used to be a teacher, so I could picture everything that they were saying, and I almost pictured my own school as the setting, which was really weird to do. I kind of was ah. So yeah, that kind of was odd, but it was still amazing storytelling. And anyways, Katherine was an author that I discovered this year that just blew me out of the water, and I can't wait to read more from her. She seems to write the opposite of fluff, really deep, well thought out life stories, and I just love them. There is a romance, but it's more so about the development of the characters. So anyways, I'm talking a lot about these first books, but it's just because they impacted me so much, and I was really surprised at how much I loved them. So anyways, 10 minutes on 2 books. Let's keep going. So I'm just gonna go in the order that I read them this year. So my next favorite is A Broken Kind of Beautiful by Ganshert. This, I remember thinking that it felt the same as a Redeeming Love, Francine Rivers book, kind of like Redeeming Love, because it follows a girl who's a model and she feels her only value is in her looks and how skinny she is and her perfection and whatever. It was really a journey for her to discover the value that God has given her as a person, and it's has nothing to do with her looks. So I super resonated with that. Ganshert is one that she has a bunch of hidden gems that are so good. I don't see her talked about as an author much, but her books are excellent. Every single one that I've read I've loved. So this one stands out. I for sure would recommend it, and I love the cover. Okay, one to hold up finally. So, Before I Called You Mine by Nicole Deese. This was in a book haul. I hope that it's up already. It might not be. Anyways, I bought this book on Book Outlet, and isn't it beautiful? I'm so glad that I own it. I love this cover so much. After I read A Broken Kind of Beautiful, I think, this book was recommended to me on my library, so I was like, okay, sure. And I read it and it was amazing. So yay, this is another Christian romance book, but it's so good. Again, it follows a teacher, which is interesting. I read a lot of books about teachers this year. Interesting. Okay, so it follows a teacher. Her big thing is she just wants to be a mom. She feels called by God to be a mom. And so she's actually started the process of being an adoptive parent as a single woman. And when you do that, the agency that she's going through, she has to stay single for a certain amount of time before they will like release a child to her, basically, because if she's saying that she's going to be single, the child needs to know like this is your parent and there's no one else in the picture. So she's like, yeah, I'm not meeting anyone, so let's just do it. But then a super nice substitute teacher comes into her school and they totally hit it off. He's like such a nice guy, and she's like, whoa, uh-oh, I like this guy a lot. The date that they go on is so stinking cute. Like, it felt so real. There was I think a big thing that stands out for this book is everything felt so realistic. Like, I could see this being real. And it was just so nice that way, and it was like really nice to picture the guy. The guy is one of my, It went so far that I was like, what is she gonna pick? Because there was really no solution I could see. Either she picks the kid or the guy, and I didn't know, because she wrote it so well where I was torn too. Like, I was like, I don't know what the right answer is. Like, I don't know. And so I really loved it for that, and I just thought it was really good storytelling, so would super recommend this book. This is gonna be a very long video. Okay. This book is such a gem, okay? Heart of Red, Blood of Blue, Rebecca Belliston. This book came out of nowhere. My mom bought it on Amazon super randomly, don't even know how she found it, but she's like, hey, I bought this book, do you want it? I was like, yeah, I do. And I read it, and I was like, this is one of the best books I've ever read, like, actually. So it's kind of YA new adult-ish. It's completely clean, it's fantasy. There's like slight religious Christian faith throughout it that was so amazing. Yeah. It follows this princess who's the last heir to the throne because there's an assassin killing her whole family. The king has hidden her away, but then he's like, actually, we're gonna unite with another kingdom, so you have to marry the king of this kingdom. But the king is like an old nasty man, and she's like, I can't do it, so she runs away. And she's also, what is it called? Albino. And so everyone's like freaked out by her because she's the only albino. And you follow her on her journey of who she meets, how she survives, and the twists and turns with these kingdoms. I was blown away. It was so good. It was so well told. It is like a little bit intense. Like at the very beginning, when she is talking to her dad, the king, and then also the other king, it gets like kind of sketchy there for a bit. Like the king that she's supposed to marry is like a total like super inappropriate and creepy, so that is described a little bit, and it's like really disturbing, so just so you know. So in that way it doesn't feel as YA, like it feels more new adult, I would say, even though I think she's 16 or 17. Anyways, but I loved it. It was so good. I do have a whole video reviewing this book. I've kind of talked about it more recently on my channel, but seriously, it's so good. If any of what I said sounds good to you, you will love this. It's actually so good. Okay, and then it doesn't even feel like I read this trilogy this year, but the If I Run trilogy, I read it this year. It's so weird. It feels like I've just always read it and loved it, but no, I read it this year. I read all 3 books back to back, and If I Run, If I'm Found, and If I Live, they're all on my favorites list, but this is the only book I own in the series. I do want to own the other 2 books eventually. I would totally reread this trilogy. It was so good. You've probably heard a ton about it, but you follow this girl being so smart at evading the cops, which is like fun to read about, you know? And then it alternates chapters with the detective, or yeah, he's kind of a detective, or no, what's it called? Personal investigator? Yeah. He goes looking for her. He gets hired by the family to look for her, and so you get his perspective as well. And it's a Christian book. It's clean. It's like really exciting, super fast paced. You'll want to read the whole trilogy all in one go because it's just like each book ends so abruptly and like you just have to know how she's going to survive. And then I loved the ending. I just loved how it wrapped up. So good. Definitely a favorite. I'm trying to go through these a little bit faster. So next is My Hope Next Door by Tammy Gray. Starting my love of this author, yes. I read a lot of books by this author this year because this book was so good. Like my eyes like doing something weird, it keeps sticking. Yeah, I loved this book because it's a Christian romance book, but it's so deep and also like very realistic and hard to read sometimes, but like so real, and like the faith, like the grittiness, I loved it. So you follow this girl who is going back to her old town where her parents live because her mom has health issues, so she's going to help them. And the new neighbor of her parents is the son of the pastor of the town, and they went to high school together. And they hit it off. They have a friendship, and it is the most adorable thing to read ever, but so real. Like, I really liked that these characters were a bit older too. They were like 27, I think. And at the time, I was 27 when I read it, so I was like, oh, it's me, you know? And seriously, this guy, I was like, oh, if I could meet a pastor's son like him, please. Like, anyways, I loved this book. It was so good. It talks a lot about alcoholism and drugs and theft, so be careful about that if those are triggers, but couldn't recommend it enough. I loved it. So good. Okay, and then I read the sequel to Stay With Me, Let It Be Me by Becky Wade. Oh, I loved this book too. So actually, super cool story. Becky Wade emailed me and offered to send me this book for a review, and I was thrilled. So that was really cool. So this book is really special for that reason, but I read it and loved it genuinely. Like, I love this series. Stay With Me is a book that just like really resonates with me. And so this is just the sequel to it, but it was just as good. Like, Becky Wade writes family dynamics super well, and then plus she like weaves in a mystery that the characters are trying to solve in such like a seamless way, in my opinion. Like, I really love it. And plus, like, the interactions between the love interests are so adorable. Like, I eat it up. I love it. You follow a doctor and a teacher in this one, so again, another teacher one. Weird. But I really resonated with the main girl character. She had a lot of like inner thoughts that I related to. I think when I first reviewed this, I said like, if you want to know what I am in a character in a book, it's this girl. And I don't know if I would say that now. I think I've like changed a lot as a person actually, and I know myself better, so I don't think I'm exactly like this girl anymore, but similar. Like the way she thinks, I like really related to it. So anyways, loved this book, definitely a favorite. Okay, and then, like, who could top My Hope Next Door but the same author, Love and a Little White Lie, Tammy Gray. Like, I loved this book so much. And it's really weird because, like, I actually relate to this book less, but the relationship and, like, just the dynamics, the stuff going on was just, I loved it so much. Okay, so in this one, the girl is an atheist. She's like, Christianity is bogus. It's just to make people feel good. Like, it's not real. But her aunt is a Christian, and her aunt gets her a job at the local church. So she is like a pastor's assistant, and she ends up meeting like the worship leader, and there's like a guy that works on the grounds that she's living on with her aunt. So there's kind of two guys lingering around, and like I truly didn't know who she was gonna be with until you get there. And just the way that she, like, this girl discovered Jesus, it's really like her salvation story that like speaks to my heart so much. I love salvation stories. I love it when Jesus like woos people into his heart. And so that was the charm of this book. And then just the relationship, it was really gritty, and I just loved the personalities of these characters. The storytelling was so good. Just everything. I loved it. So yeah, and then I did also read the sequel to this because I got it as an ARC on NetGalley. It came out in August, I think. Love and the Silver Lining. Such a pretty cover. I need to own it. Right? Seriously. But anyways, so this is the sequel, and yeah, you follow a character that you met in this first book, and Again, it didn't go in a direction I thought. Like, I thought I had it figured out, but no, I didn't. And I loved that. So that's also a favorite. I won't say anything more past that, but yeah. Okay, next, Mind Games by Nancy Mel. I loved this book. It was so exciting. Definitely about something that I haven't read about before, because it's about a serial killer, so that was cool. And like an FBI, not the FBI, calm yourself, okay? Mind Games. I have a whole video about it, reviewing it, so I'll link that down below. I won't discuss it too much because I'm going crazy. But I really enjoyed it, more so on like the action and mystery rather than romance, which was a nice change for me, you know? I read lots of romance, I love romance, but this one was more heavily on how do these characters think, and then also the main character, forget her name now, but Kaylee, I think? Kaylee? She has like a lot of trauma from her past because her dad was a serial killer, and she's a Christian, but she's still like working through a lot of things with God. But she ended up talking about her faith with her partner, and that really spoke to me. That just the way that she talked about God, it was just like he just was so real. The words that the author strung together in that really, really spoke to me. So that stands out, and overall I loved the whole trilogy. But this book I think is the strongest, and I just loved it. So definitely love this book. Okay, I'm gonna end with my two favorite books, but the next one is Smokescreen by Terri Blackstock. I was so surprised by this book. I think that's why it ended up being a favorite, because I actually didn't hear that great of things when I started it, so I was like, oh, okay, like kind of had low expectations, but it starts off with a bang, because right away you're following this mom. She is actually the pastor's daughter as well, so she has a reputation, she feels like she has to be perfect. But when her kids go to visit their dad, she drinks alcohol and she gets drunk. She actually stays drunk the whole time. And it was written in such a real way. Like, I just saw it being so real to real life. And I just really resonated with it. Like, I really felt for her. But overall, I don't know, it was just like a really great standalone story, and I really loved it. So it's a favorite. And if you're keeping track, these books have not shown up yet, and I would probably say they're my favorite books of the year, even though obviously I just gushed about all of these books. I love all of them, but if I had to pick favorite books, it would be the This Present Darkness duology? I don't know. This Present Darkness, Piercing the Darkness, I can't compare them. I loved them both equally because, first of all, this one, I loved the spiritual aspect of like seeing the angels and the demons interact, and then like how prayer affected things. It just spoke to me so much, and I loved that. But then with this one, I really felt like the characters spoke to me in this one, and just like their struggle of faith, I just like saw myself in it so much, and I really loved reading about it. So both of these are favorites. I have completely dedicated videos for each of these, so I'll link those down below, and just know that I love them. I got so much out of them. They actually impacted my faith and my life in a big way, and they have transformed my prayer life, honestly, and I'm really thankful for that. So yeah, I don't think I'll say much about these. I have talked a lot about them. I did kind of like read-alongs with you guys for these books, and again, I do have videos for them, but these are my favorite books of the year, although it would be so hard to pick, honestly. Like, I loved all of these books. Okay, not too bad. I think I did it. So yeah, obviously I had a great reading year. I really hope that I have another good reading year. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, you guys. I hope that you have good recommendations from this. And please tell me what your favorite book of the year was. Maybe we'll have some crossover. And truly, I recommend all of these books. They were so good. And yeah, can't wait to keep reading. So have a great day, you guys. I will see you next time. Bye.